record to the cloud. We are going to do this summary right here. We're going to do a bunch of cool stuff here. And I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for being here today, guys. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
Hi, good.
Good. Beautiful day. Beautiful day, best day of the week. All right, we're going to get started here. What do I got for you guys here today? Well, I got a presentation for you. So for those of you who've kind of been a part of these in the past, you guys know I always cover three things. Basically, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk for a really, really long time. If you guys want, you can interrupt me. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do questions at the end, okay? So for you guys, write your questions down because if we don't write things down, we forget them. Professionals write things down. Amateurs do not write things down, okay? So I'm going to go through things here. You guys are going to forget it. Make sure you have your pen, your journal. Make sure you have some water with you too, because I'm going to go through things. It's going to sound like a fever dream, and I'm going to go through it fast. So write down your stuff that you guys want to talk about at the end, and then I'll stick around and we can either just have a conversation around mindset, or we can talk about questions around it. So, when we're talking about mindset, like one of the things, like I always heard this saying, my mentor always used to say this to me about real estate. All of us are real estate agents here, is that you don't try real estate tries you, right? So there's not like, you don't play real estate, right? It's a lot like boxing, right? You don't go and play boxing. Like you're doing it, you are getting hit, right? And there's certain things that make people successful and certain things that make people unsuccessful. And we've talked about those in the past, right? Some of them are the assets that we have or the skills that we have. Some of us have these organizational tools, or some of us have, advantages or disadvantages. But the main thing that really makes a difference in all success is mindset. Okay. And I've had the privilege and the honor of being coached by some of the top performers all over North America, and have had some really, really great mentors. And what I've found is usually when I'm asking them for advice, it might be on something that I think is really, really specific. The conversation always gets turned into the mindset around that thing, right? So that's why I'm so passionate about this. That's why we're going to talk about it here today. Here's one of the things that I've learned from one of those people is this game that we are playing of business, of entrepreneurship, is all a mind game. This is all in our mind. And, no matter where you are or like who you are, whatever it is that you're trying to do, we all understand that we have our advantages and we all understand that we have our disadvantages, but we're all born with and we come into the day every single day with 24 hours in a day. So whether you're, an Irving, or whether you're, you work for Apple, or, you're just trying to sell your very first home, or you're a top producer, whatever it is, we all evenly have the same amount of time and resources in a day, right? And that's one of the things that I've always really loved about real estate is this is the most competitively fair business out there, right? It doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're young, if you're old, if you're black, if you're white, it doesn't matter, okay? If you have the right mindset and the right tools, you will be successful. And one of the reasons that I always say this is because oftentimes we look at these people who are doing better than us and we think, well, they're lucky. They got a break. They're really good at social media, or she's beautiful, or he's good looking, or, they have all these connections. But the truth is that they persevered through hard times. And everyone who's successful in this industry has been successful for one reason, and it's persevering through hard work, right? Through a mental game. So this is a mind game, and this is why it's so important that we talk about this. Write that down. This game that I'm playing is a mind game. Now, one of the biggest things when it comes to our mind or our mental fitness, one of the biggest misconceptions that we see all the time is people think that, a strong mind is just something that we're born with, right? But the truth is the complete opposite. Your mindset is something that you develop just like you develop any other thing, any other skill set, or any other thing that you develop. So similarly to having a strong body, we all know that if we want to have a strong body, what do we have to do? We have to go to the gym and we have to get our reps in, right? And the more reps that we get in and the more times we go to the gym, the stronger our body will be, right? And what happens when we stop going to the gym? What happens to our body? Our body gets weaker, right? So that's the same thing with our mind, right? We have to get the reps in to build a strong mind, right? And what happens is the more reps we get in, the stronger our mind gets. And when we stop doing our reps, the weaker our mind gets. So it's the same thing. So it's a common misconception. People often think, well, she was just born with confidence, or he was just born with this natural communication skill. But the opposite is what's actually true. These things are developed, okay? So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about three things. I always do three things. Very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we attract business into us, okay? How do we act like a magnet to suck all this business in, like grab it from the universe and bring it into us? The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through a strategy that involves work, right? You guys putting in work to build your confidence, because we know that confidence sells, right? Conviction sells more. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through a strategy again. It's all around building your beliefs. Yes, I said building your beliefs, right? Because we're not just born with beliefs, right? Our beliefs are input into us, and that's how we build them. So we're going to go through strategies around all of these things. Take lots of notes. So the Psi Master, not the Thigh Master, but the Psi Master, talking about putting in your reps. Now, we all know this person that's just has like a walking cloud going above them, don't we? Like we all know that person, right? And like sometimes, I'll admit, sometimes I've been that person, right? Where it's just like everything that I do is just like there's this cloud going over me, right? They're low energy, they're not confident, they're not motivated, they're not getting out of bed, they're not doing their thing, right? So what happens when we're in this state, in this frequency? What do you guys think happens? Do you think that's good for sales, or do you think that's bad for sales? You guys all know it's bad for sales, right? The energy vampires, as we call them. I like Psi Master. I'm going to trademark that. The whole point is we need to get out, and some of you guys are in this right now. You're thinking, oh, geez, that's me, right? Or I know somebody like that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to come out of that frequency and into a frequency that allows us to attract business, sell more, make more money, which is what we all want, right? So the very first thing that we're going to go through here is called the sales frequency magnet. So you guys write that down, okay? This is a strategy that I learned from my coach. So my coach, Dan Martell, you guys can check him out. He's blowing up all over social right now. I think, Jennifer, I see you nodding your head. I asked you if you knew him, right? So he's from Moncton, New Brunswick. This is one of the things that he taught us about attracting business into our lives, okay? Because oftentimes we think that we become successful, right? We become successful, but what we actually do is we attract success into us, okay? Now, write this down. The best me or the best you always sells, right? Isn't that true? The best version of you always sells, always does well, right? See you're nodding your head. Jennifer, have you ever been in flow? Like where everything, it's called in flow, where everything's just happening magically. It's all coming to you, like everything's happening perfectly. It's all lining up. You're happy. Everyone's saying yes to you. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever
Yes.
seen that? Right?
Yes,
It's called
definitely.
flow,
Yeah.
right? We're in flow.
Yeah.
That's where we're trying to get, and that's where we're trying to stay. Okay. So I have a few questions for you guys. Some of you guys are in flow right now. You guys are crushing it. Some of us need to get back into flow, right? So here's a couple questions that we can ask ourselves to sort of getting back into flow, right? First thing is, when was the last time you crushed your numbers, right? When was the last time that you had your targets and you crushed them, right? What were you doing then versus what are you doing now? And we call that the gap, right? So the last time, actually think back to reflect. It might be, March, it might be 6 months ago, it might be last year that you're like, yeah, I was just absolutely on fire. And I
Mhm.
want you to ask yourself, what were you doing at that time, right? You might say, well, Rob, I was getting up every day early, right? I was meditating. What were you reading at the time? You might even think back to like I was volunteering and, I felt really, really good about volunteering. What were you doing then? And what are you doing now? Well, I got really, really busy with sales and I was being pulled a million different ways. And then I had to give up the volunteer thing because I didn't have enough time to do my paperwork and blah, 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 blah. Simply want you guys to just take time after this and reflect on the last time that you were, crushing it. And just think about what it was that you were doing at that time. Okay. So that's homework for you guys to do. But the best you always sells. The you that feels good about you always sells. Okay. um, and what I just have here is just in order to act like a magnet, what we always need to do and have things drawn to us is we need to become the best versions of ourselves, right? So oftentimes we think it's the opposite, right? Oftentimes we think we have to keep giving all of ourselves, right? We have to sacrifice, our health or our sleep or our, time with our family so that we can look after people. But the truth is the opposite is true, right? We need to feel good in order to continue to attract things into us. Now, let's start off before we go into the sales frequency magnet. Before we go into that quadrant, we're going to talk a little bit about the types of things that repel deals. Okay. All of us are here to do more because we want to do more deals. We want to do more business. We want it to be easier. What types of things repel deals? Okay. So the very first thing that repels deals is when we feed our mind junk. Okay. So I'm willing to bet that if I was able to go inside your life and your brain and record every single thing that you listen to every single day, right? Whether it's the news or whether it's on TV or whether the radio or the songs that you're listening to, and everything that you input into your mind all day, whether it's social media, right? And I transcribed that and I read it back to you. I bet you guys would all be really surprised with the junk, the junk that you're putting in your mind, right? So you guys can do an audit of this. Like you can actually unfollow people from social media, right? And unfollow the news from social media, right? So that this stuff isn't going into your mind. But the very first thing that repels deals and repels sales and makes you push things away is feeding your mind junk, okay? Second guessing yourself, right? Second guessing yourself, not lacking confidence, right? Have you ever had somebody try and sell you like a car or something like that? Or maybe you guys been in the scenario where you're just not confident about what the next step is, right? And you're actually repelling people away from you, right? Because conviction, right, always wins influence, right? When we're the most convicted and we're just, hey, this is how it is. People just believe us. If I'm more convicted than you are, you're going to believe me, right? All the time. A lot of times second guessing ourselves comes from a feeling of feeling unworthy. Okay. So this is something that we can work on. We'll talk about this later on. But there's this really great story. This girl wrote a book. Just her name is just evading me. And Kevin Perry reminded me of this last time too. I forgot her name again, but she wrote this book called Worthy, where she just, talks about her
Jamie Kern Lima.
yes, exactly what it is. Right? That Jamie Curry Lima.
Kern, Kern. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so she had basically all these opportunities coming up to her, but she actually felt like she wasn't worthy enough to take them. So she met Oprah and she had Oprah's phone number in her phone for 4 years. And Oprah said, call me anytime that you want. I'd really love to discuss this journey with you. She had Oprah's phone number in her phone for 4 years and never called it. And the reason she never called it was she just didn't feel like she was worthy enough to talk to Oprah, right? So I ask you guys, like, how are you guys, or what are you pretending not to know, or how are you, not showing up in your day so that you can play small, right? Sometimes we just don't feel worthy enough. What repels deals when we focus on what we don't have? Well, if only I had a better car, or if only I had some more money, or if only I had a better mentor, or if only my brokerage just helped me more. All these, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. Those types of things repel people away from you. They feel it, right? You feel the energy. And the last thing that repels deals every single time is this thing that we call commission breath, right? You stink. Your breath stinks, right? You know what commission breath is? It's like, please, 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 please. I need the deal. I need it. I really, really need it, right? People feel that from us, right? When we need it, right? So what we want to do is we want to get away from these things, go into a life of abundance so that we attract things into us and into our businesses, okay? So this is what we call the attraction quadrant. This is the sales frequency magnet. So in your notes right now, you guys just draw a line, draw 4 squares, or draw, like a line going down and a line going across. And we're going to go through what the attraction quadrant is and how we can attract more business and more sales into our lives. Okay. You guys can use this for anything. So the very first part of the attraction quadrant is this thing that's called courage. Okay. So write this down. So if we don't have the courage to go after what it is that we really want, first of all, we're not going to be rewarded by the universe, by whatever it is that you believe in. We're not going to be rewarded by not having courage, right? So I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson has a really good quote that God will not have his glory made by cowards, right? God does not reward cowards, right? The universe does not reward cowards, right? So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to make the choice to actually go for what we want, right? And a lot of times it's really, really hard, right? Because we have limiting beliefs. We have maybe even people that are trying to, under their own volition and even trying to be helpful, telling us not to do things, right? Like, hey, Jennifer, I see you're posting on the internet a lot. Like, that's not really you. That's not really you. Like, why are you doing that, right? That's not really gonna, stuff like that, right? Which is what I said to you, right? Those are the things that come. Like, what do you do? Instead of just saying like, hey, I see that you're really, really trying. Like, man, you're inspiring me. You're inspired. Good for you for going after it, right? We need to get past that. We need to have the courage to go for what it is that we want, despite what anybody else says. Our parents, our friends, our coworkers, whatever that is. We have to go for it. The second part of the quadrant that we need to have is confidence. Okay, so confidence, right? We need to have the confidence around that to attract things. And isn't it true that confident people attract more to them, right? Do you just know someone they just have it, like they got the smile, they got it all down, right? There's just something about them. They're so confident. We'll talk about that a little bit more here. But I believe that confidence is created in 4 ways. Okay, we get confidence in 4 ways. The first way is by being prepared, right? We're more confident when we're prepared. When we show up for the listing agreement, knowing that we've done every single detail possible, we're more confident, aren't we? Right. The second way is by having skills. And we'll talk about building skills here after this. Okay. When we're skilled and we know how to do it, we feel good about doing it. The third way is by having assets, right? So having something. So an asset might be a listing. I'll talk about listings a lot. If I have a listing presentation and I'm skilled talking about it, I'm confident going into that meeting, right? I have an asset. I have a digital listing presentation, and just here's what we're going to go through. And the last way that we build confidence is my favorite way, which is alcohol, right? So drinking, if you guys ever notice, like drinking will make people just so confident, right? And if you don't believe me, just go to a bar anytime and watch all the guys go up to the girls. Confidence, right? Four different ways. So we need to have confidence to attract people into us. The third part of the quadrant is this connection. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you guys a story. I remember this was a few years ago. I remember I was doing everything right. I had, I was going after it. I was connecting with people. I'm knocking on their doors. I have a whole bunch of clients. I got the presentations down. I have everything, but I just wasn't selling anything. I wasn't selling anything, right? And I remember I went to this guy in our board, and I had still to this day, I have a really great friendship with him. He sells on average about 130 to 150 properties a year. A lot of you guys know this person. And I'm like, man, like I'm in the house with them. They like the house, but I can't get them to make an offer, or can't make them to get an offer that's even reasonable. I know they want it. I can tell they want it. And he says, dude, you're not listening to them. And I was like, man, stop. Like I'm listening to them, I'm hearing everything they're saying. He's like, no, man, you're not connecting with them. You're not connecting with them. And I was like, yeah, whatever, right? So I go that night and I show this guy this house, and I'm in that moment again. I'm like, man, I can tell he likes it. And it's in that moment that I realized they're looking around. I'm in another room thinking about the past, thinking about all the things that I have coming up, and I wasn't in the moment with them, right? And they could feel that I wasn't in the moment with them. I wasn't connecting to that moment, right? So many times we're not in the present. We're unable to connect. And I remember thinking at that moment, I was like, man, he was right again. Like he was right. I'm just not connecting with these people. So I left the room I was in. I went into the room with them, and I was just like, hey guys, just tell me everything that you're thinking. Just like, let's just talk. Like, it seems like you guys really like this place, but it seems like you're scared. And they're like, yeah, we're scared. And I was like, okay, let's just talk about that. And we talked about it for like, it was like 5 minutes. It wasn't even that long. We just talked about it. And, what it came down to them was they just wanted to feel safe. It was just important for them to feel safe. It was important for them that I knew that they wanted to feel safe and that I connected with them. So anyways, they didn't buy that house, but what they ended up doing was there was a house listed across the road later that week, and they ended up buying that house. So I'd shown them up to this point like 20, 30, 40. You guys know what it's like. 40 houses. They weren't doing anything serious. You know what I mean? But it wasn't until I actually connected with them, right? In the moment, being present in the moment, not thinking about all the other things I had to do, that the sales started coming. Okay. So one of the things we have to do is we have to connect with people. And then the last thing that we have to do to attract business into us is have character. Okay. Character, right? And what character means is we have to do the things that we promise that we're going to do to ourselves. The promises that we made, we have to keep them when nobody's looking, right? So that means, if we're setting aside time for, to go to the gym, or we're setting aside time for family, or we're setting aside time to work on our business, we're true to that and we do the things that we say that we're going to do, right? If we say that for every listing, we're going to prepare meticulously for every listing appointment, and here's a checklist of all the things that I do before I do my listing appointment, no one's checking in on all those things, right? We have to do those things so that we attract business into us, because we do not get rewarded if we're not doing the things that we should be doing, right? So that's kind of like the magnet. I have some homework for you guys just on this sales frequency magnet here. What I want you guys to do is I want you to write down where you think you need to work most on in this quadrant, right? Is it courage? Is it confidence? Is it connecting with people and being in the moment? Is it your character? And is it just doing the things that you promised yourself that you were going to do? Okay. And once you start doing all of those things, what's going to happen is the universe is going to start rewarding you, right? And like, if you guys have ever like started something new, you ever notice that every time you start something new and you actually have the courage to go and do it, you get rewarded? Like, I remember when I finally decided to start going door knocking, you know what happened the very first time? Got a listing. The first time. It was crazy, right? But then what happened was I got rewarded, right? And the universe said, okay, here you go. Here's a listing. And then it didn't do it for a long time after that, because I wasn't doing it consistently. I wasn't doing the thing. I was saying I was doing it, but I wasn't really doing it. I wasn't really preparing for it. I wasn't really, focusing on my skills. And once I started doing all those things, what happened was started getting listings, started getting listing appointments, right? So you guys write down what it is that you guys think that you need to work on those. Just do a self-assessment. You guys know yourselves better than anyone. And then just start thinking about that. Okay. I want you to think about what it is that you want. 10 minutes on what do I want? What do I want? Okay. That's homework when it comes to this. I love this quote by Jennifer Sodini. It's your frequency is what you frequently see. It's what we input into us, right? It's what we see every single day. It's what we practice every single day. And I want to encourage you guys to start focusing on what it is that you're putting into your mind and what it is that you're doing every day, right? When you go into flow, it's usually as a result of like stacking a bunch of positive things on top of each other, right? So like a bunch of positive outcomes, right? A good thing, a good thing, a good thing, a good thing, a good thing. And that's how we develop our frequency, right? We track things into us. So that is strategy number one. It's called the sales frequency magnet. I learned that from Dan Martel. Second thing that I'm going to go through here. Confidence not included. We talked about this earlier, right? We all think that we're just born with confidence. It's kind of like batteries not included, right? We're not just included with confidence once we start this. You guys think about how we start our careers, right? I've talked about this before. Real estate is the least educated, least trained, high earning profession of all of the professions. In order to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, an engineer, all of those things, you have to go to school for years and years and years and years. Most of us come into the business under 6 months, and we have to pass. Basically, what we're taught is how to pass a test. That's what we're taught. That's our education, how to pass a test. Okay. But there's much more to it than that. We have to learn things about real estate, the market, the prices, the contracts. We have to learn things about business, right? How to manage our money, how to manage our time. We have to learn things about sales, talking to people, setting appointments. But like, how do we really know what to prioritize and how to do it, right? A lot of people like just do like you'll just figure it out. Oh, you'll just figure it out as we go, right? Like you guys hear that one. Oh, you'll figure it out as you go along. No, no. So how do we build that? That doesn't breed confidence when you don't know what you're going to do, right? Does it, Jennifer? When you don't have the skill, you don't have the asset, or you don't have a drink in you, you're not confident, are you? You're not confident, right? So lack of confidence, lack of motivation, lack of direction. How do we change that? So I have this theory, right? And it's basically that we have to do everything the opposite way than we think that we're supposed to do it, right? And intuitively, you guys are going to have thought about this. You're going to realize, man, I kind of thought I should be doing it that way anyways, but people told me not to do it that way, right? They say, oh, just get started. You'll figure it out. That's most people's training plan, right? So we're going to go through here. It's called what I call the backwards blueprint. The backwards builder blueprint. Say that 10 times fast. Backwards blueprint builder. Backwards builder blueprint. I got to think of another name for that. But like we talked about, there's those ways to build confidence. It's by, being prepared, building your skills, building your assets around you. Now, here's how most people, so this is basically the theory. So I want you to draw 3 circles, okay? Just like this is what we're going to do. This is the blueprint. It's 3 circles, okay? All inside of each other. And basically every time you guys want to build a skill, anytime that you guys want to build an asset, any times that you guys want to solve a problem, this is the way that we're going to solve them. Okay, this is the way that we're going to build it. Now, here's the way that we're always taught to do it. We're always taught to build skills or build assets from the beginning to the end. And it makes perfect sense because we're logical creatures. And most of us are taught to learn things step by step from the beginning to the end. Am I correct? Right? We're chronological thinkers, right? So we think of timelines in chronological order. So Jennifer, it would be really, really normal if I was trying to learn how to, let's just say, list my first property. It'd be normal for me to think about, well, first I got to attract business, right? I got to market. Then I have to go in people's homes and do presentations. Then I have to get them to sign documents. Then I have to get the, all of the marketing done. Then I have to go through the timeline, right? That's the way that we normally learn, right? But as you'll see here, when we learn that way, that requires a lot of faith that we're just going to figure out the next step as we go along. It requires a lot of faith in order to do that. So most people learn this way. So this is basically the 3 stages that we're going to do here. The middle stage is the finalization stage. The stage around that is the execution stage. The stage around that is the initiation stage. Okay. And basically what happens is when we start to build our skills the way that we've been taught with the initiation stage first, you see that there's this gap right in the middle here where there requires a lot of faith to just think that, oh, I'll just figure out what's going to happen next as it goes along, right? And it's hard to have confidence around that, never knowing what the next step is going to be, right? Especially when we're being, depended on to walk people through these steps, right? We're being seen as the expert, right? And, normally what would happen is we'd initiate, then we'd start executing things, and then we'd finalize things. So I'll use an example of things that I used to do. I started off my career door knocking, okay? And for the first 2.5 years of my career, I went door to door 4 days a week, 14 people a day was my goal, 14 conversations a day, 4 days a week for 2.5 years. And that resulted in my first 2 years in about 2 listings. Okay. And it wasn't, but I did it. right? Because I was in this initiation stage right here. And what I actually learned from being in this initiation stage all the time, and you guys will realize this, most of the times we're not afraid to ask for the business because we're afraid that people are going to say no, right? You're going to hear that fear of rejection, fear of failure. I'm just afraid, well, they're just afraid that they're going to say no. The opposite is actually true. Most of the time, we're afraid to ask for the business because we're afraid that people are going to say yes. And we know that we don't know how to walk them through the process, right? That's why we don't prospect most of the time. That's why we don't post on Facebook. That's why we're afraid people are going to say yes to us. Okay. So we need to reconfigure our learning so that we feel confident asking for the business, right? And what happens is when and you're skilled and you know how to walk people through these processes, you will literally be like, people would be dumb not to list with me. And that's what was happening with me when I was going to door to door. So this is what would happen, Jen, sincerely. I'd go up to a door. I had a little script. I'd be like, hey, I'm Rob DePiro from Exit Realty Specialist. When are you planning on moving? And they'd be like, I would move tomorrow if I could. And I'd be like, okay. I'd be like, okay. And like, if they didn't invite me in, I didn't know how to progress. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they didn't literally say, hey, do you want to come in? I'd be like, I didn't know, like, right? And then what would happen is if I got invited in, I didn't know how to move it along, right? Because the truth was I just wasn't confident in what I was doing, right? So I did this for 2.5 years, for 2 years, and then I finally got smart about it. I thought, geez, like, I should have like a listing present. I should have like when I go in the door, how to get a signature. I should know how to do that. And I learned that, and then all of a sudden I got like in 6 months, like 20 listings. Okay. That's how we normally learn. Now, when we learn the opposite way, right, from the finish to the start, ultimately what happens is it changes our frequency, it changes our confidence level, and it allows us to start building things around this. Okay. So this all came from a podcast that I listened to from a guy named Josh Waitzkin. And he wrote this book. It's right here. It's called The Art of Learning. Okay. So for those of you, I talked about Josh Waitzkin before. Josh Waitzkin was the youngest chess champion in the history of the world. He won the World Chess Championships at 10 years old. Okay. So they made a movie about him. Right. So there's a movie called Searching for Bobby Fischer. And that movie is based off of him. Okay. So big movie in the 90s. And basically, he won this chess championship against adults at the age of 10. And basically, they studied him for years and years and years. And the reason that he said that he was so successful at chess was because he learned the opposite of everybody else. So everybody else learns chess the way that we just talked about. They start with, 16 pieces on each side of the board, and they start by learning opening moves. They start learning how to initiate. But what Josh Waitzkin learned was that he would learn at the end. So he would learn with all the pieces off the board and a pawn king versus a king. And he'd have to get them in checkmate. And then he'd learn pawn king versus pawn, 2 pawns and a king. And he'd have to learn how to basically get in checkmate. So basically what ended up happening was he knew that if he just got in one of these positions, he knew how to finalize things, right? So he took this theory of learning and then he built backwards from that. So as an adult, essentially what happened was he stopped playing chess. He actually had the longest, it's considered the longest con in history. It's a 30-year con. I'll talk about that at the end if you guys want. But he started going into martial arts, right? So he learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And in 16 months, he became never knowing anything about jiu-jitsu, which is a martial art, which you guys might know, to being the world champion in a martial art. And he did it through the same way of essentially what he did was, how do most people learn? Standing up, grabbing somebody, right? And, trying to get them onto the ground. He learned on the ground how to get somebody to submit. And basically what he did was he would funnel everything into the finalization so that once he got in one of these positions, it was like he was going to win. He was going to win. So we want to do the same thing with our skills. We want to do the same thing with our assets. All right. We want to start with the end in mind. Okay. Start with the end in mind. I have beginning in mind there. So opposite of what we saw here before. Remember before when we had the circle and there was a, the initiation was in the around it and there was that big gap in the middle? We had to have a lot of faith there. If we begin with the finalization in mind, here's what it looks like. We build the finalization. Then we start to execute. Then we build the execution part of it. Then we build the initiation of it. Okay. So here's some examples of this. Okay. I'll give you some of the examples in my life that I actually did. What if you say, it always starts off with saying what you want. I want more listings, right? Same thing that I said to that agent. How do I get more listings? How do I do that, right? This is, if you want more listings, here's how you do it. You start off with the end in mind. Did you know, Heba, that most people have never read the listing agreement? When I talk to agents all day long and they say, I want more listings. And I'm like, explain the listing agreement to me. They've never read it. And I realized when I was door knocking, I'd never read the listing agreement. Isn't that crazy? I'd had people sign it. I knew where the initials went, but I didn't even read it. Right. So it wasn't until I went to that last moment and I'm like, how do I explain a listing agreement to somebody in 30 seconds so it sounds engaging and so that I sound confident? And literally what I did, I'm telling you, literally what I did was I took that listing agreement for 7 days in a row and I bullet point explained every single clause. I wrote it down every single day for 7 days. And a funny thing happened after 7 days. I knew how to explain it. And then I realized, oh, I just need to do this with all of the forms. And then I went to the agreement of purchase and sale 7 days in a row, bullet point. This is what this means. 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 I'd have pages and pages of notes 7 days in a row. Then I did the working with the real estate industry. Then I just broke all these things down. So what we need to do is we need to feel confident about explaining that. Remember, if we can't explain the listing agreement, we don't feel good about asking for the business. If we can't explain the process, we don't feel good about asking for it. And built it backwards. More listings. Do you have a listing presentation? Right? Do you have a presentation? Do you have a process that you follow every single time? Because we know professional people have a process they follow every single time. And then what you do is finally you ask for the business and you build the marketing around that. Okay. Another example, social media, right? Not posting on social media or not really doing it consistently, right? Do you have a goal and a vision of what the message is that you're trying to give out there, right? You build the end first. What do I want out of this? I want more sellers. I want more buyers. I want more first-time home buyers. I want downsizers. What do I want? What's the goal? What's the vision? Then we start to execute it with a list of ideas, right? Then we start to create it. Too many times, what do? We start creating, then we have some ideas. We usually don't even think of the last part, do we? Right? But if we think of what we want to start, we start building around that, which is what I'm doing literally with these events, right? I started with the end in mind. I told you guys that at the very beginning. I had a plan the whole time. Then I had all this marketing around it, right? Then I started asking people, hey, you want to come? Because I already knew what I was going to do, right? Make sense? More money. I want more money, right? I will not coach anybody if they do not tell me that they don't have a goal, a financial goal. If you do not have a financial goal, if you cannot say, I want to make 300K, 400K, 500K, there's no helping you. There's no helping you. We need to know what it is that we want. Then we create a blueprint behind it. Then we list the assets that we need to get it. And then we create action. And then we start action. How many times do we just start taking action without knowing where it is that we want to go? Right. So this is just a blueprint that I've used to deconstruct things, to go out there and learn things, to build confidence. I go back to, again, once you start building your skills this way, once you start building your assets this way, what's going to happen is it's going to change your mindset. You're going to think people would be crazy not to list with me based off of all of this work that I put in here. And, the fact that I can walk them through every single process, I know exactly what I'm doing. They're going to be crazy. It's going to change the way that you approach people, right? Then you feel good about asking for the business. Then you feel really good about asking for it. Of course, you're going to ask for it. I want to say one thing about this is starting with the end in mind and building the end first. This is really, really important, is not an excuse to not take action. Okay. It's not an excuse to not take action. Okay. We need to put in our calendars when we're going to build this. It's not an excuse to not go out there and talk to people and wait, like the curse of making everything perfect. Right? It's not an excuse to do that. It's just simply realizing it's a better strategy for things. We should time block when we're going to build these things, and we should set deadlines on when they're going to be done. right? So that we can move forward. Remember, deadlines are there to move things forward. Love Stephen Covey. He wrote a really great book. You guys all know about it, but he has this quote in it. And, to begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. That's how we build confidence. And when we have a clear understanding, we're more confident when we have skills. Last thing that I'm going to go through here is just a little strategy. We all have this thing here, right here, don't we? It's called the doubt monster. You know what it sounds like, that little monster inside your head. You're not good enough. They're going to know that you're faking it. What if they find out you don't look good today? Why are you even trying this anyways? You're going to embarrass the doubt monster. We all have that, right? We all have that, right? Even successful people have that. But what they do is they've built their belief system to change it, and they don't listen to it. They know that it's there. They understand that it's there. They just don't trust it. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a way that you guys can build your beliefs. Okay. So that you feel good, you attract business into. And this is through a strategy that I call the Belief Amplifier. Now, there's a couple people here that would have heard this. I learned this from Joyce Perron. She is the CEO of the Canadian corporation for Exit Realty Corp International. She's considered one of the most influential people in real estate. And so she taught me this, right, through something. And this is how we grow our belief systems. Now, a lot of people think that we're just born with beliefs. Oh, he's just confident. Oh, she feels pretty all the time. Like, no, 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 no. This is built. Remember, like going to the gym, you have to put in work, right? And this is essentially how we do it. So the belief amplifier is essentially 3 steps. Here's what they are. Okay. You start by asking, you have a feeling, right? And you should just let this bubble up into you. Like you guys, it'll just come up to you naturally, right? I'm not good enough. I hope they like me. I love to demystify that one. I love to demystify, right? You always hope that they like you. You will always hope that they like you. I've never gone to a listing appointment. I've never met a buyer for the first time. I've never met a real estate agent for the first time where I didn't have a little bit of that. I hope they like me, right? It's always there. It never goes away. And if people tell you it goes away, they just don't care. It's not cool. It's always there. We just have to know that it's there and not believe it. Okay. So you're going to let that bubble up to you. Then you're going to start asking yourself this question. What do I want? Right? When was the last time you asked yourself, what do I want? Right? Most people never ask themselves that question. I want you guys to put that down for homework tonight. I want you guys to do that tonight after this call. I want you to take 2 minutes, turn everything off, 2 minutes, set a timer, and I want you to just take a journal and write down everything that you want. Right? I want good health. I want money. I want, a college education for my kids. I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want 25 listings. I want. Step 1, what do I want? Then the next step is you answer with I am. So if you were to say, I want, maybe your limiting belief is I'm not good enough. Then you ask yourself, what do I want? I want to feel good. Then you're going to say, I feel good. I am good. I am worthy. Right. And the last thing you're going to do is you're going to write it down. Okay. Writing down. So we write things down because when we write things down, it actually has the power of 3. Right. So we've heard this before, to say it in the mirror, right? Say it in the mirror. And that's good too. But here's what happens when you write things down. You say it, right? So you say, I am good. I feel good. You see it with your eyes. It goes in again, right? And you hear it, right? So it's the power of 3 every time we write things down. This is why we're taught to take notes. This is why I would say, like, professionals take notes. This is why we're taught to take notes in school. It goes in more times. So we have, there's a really cool app out there if you guys are looking for something. I used to use it all the time when I first started doing affirmations. It's called the Prompter app. You guys can download it. It's free. It's just going to input good into you every single day. Okay. Here's what we know. Input controls output, right? Shit in, shit out. Good in, good out, right? When we listen to the news all the time, what's that? Bad in. What comes out? You ever hear, you can't give what you don't have? Can you give something you don't have? Can you give understanding if you're not understanding? Can you give security if you're not secure? Can you give energy if you have no energy? You can't give what you don't have, right? So what we put in controls what goes out, right? So this is a daily practice of writing down, I am this, I want this, I want, I am, I am. So, if we're talking about, I am, am I good enough? The monster, right? Am I good enough? What do you want? I want to feel good enough, right? So you're going to start writing things down like, I am prepared. I am unstoppable. I'm relentless. I am unworthy. I'm a 5-star. I have one. I'll share this with you guys if you want. I swear to God, I write this down every day. I'm a 5-star world-class father and husband. I have a wonderful relationship with my children. I am a beacon of light. I radiate positivity. If you guys want, I'll send you mine. Just message me after this. We have to put good in. So if you're saying, am I good enough? I'm unstoppable. I'm relentless. Will I ever be successful? What are you saying? I want to be successful. So you're just going to say, I am success. You're going to write it down. I am successful. I am every day. I am successful. I am successful. I am successful, right? I attract success like a magnet. What are we talking about here? People are just so in love with me, right? Success is all around me. There's acres and acres of diamonds everywhere. I am successful beyond my wildest dreams, right? We write it down, 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 right? If you're thinking, oh, do people like me? People, they don't really like you. You're not, he's bald. Does my hair look good today? They're going to find out I'm a farce, right? What are you really saying? You're saying, I want to be liked, right? I want this. I want to be liked. You have to listen to yourself. I want this. So you're going to write things down like, I am likable. People love listening to me talk because I always make everything seem so interesting and fascinating, right? I'm a beacon of light. I radiate positivity. People love me. They love listening to me, right? And like I remember being told this story. It's the story of a little kid and okay, so Jen, just imagine that there's this little kid and he's about 7 years old and he's struggling at school. And his father says to him, okay, here's what I want you to do. Every night when you brush your teeth, I want you to brush your teeth for 2 minutes and I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to just say, I am successful. And the kid said, well, Dad, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm not doing that. He says, no, just trust me. Just every time you brush your teeth, I want you to look in the mirror. I want you to say to yourself, I am successful. Okay. Now the kid's 7 years old, 11 years goes by. The kid's now 18 years old. And for 18 years, every time he brushed his teeth, he looked in the mirror and he said, am I successful? Right. He didn't even know he was doing it. It just became a habit, right? Didn't even realize that he was doing it. And he brushed his teeth and he said, am I successful? Now, do you guys think that 18-year-old kid feels successful? Do you think he feels successful and do you think he feels good? And do you think he becomes successful? Just intuitively, what do you guys think? Do you think he's going to be successful? The answer is yes, right? So you nod in your head. So my question to you is that 7-year-old kid doing more for himself than you're doing for yourself? Is that 7-year-old kid doing more for themselves than you're doing for yourself? So we have to input this into our brains, okay? Now, basically, here's how it looks. This is what the belief amplifier looks like. First, we start off with all these doubts, right? These feelings. I'm not good looking enough. They're going to know I'm a farce. I'm not prepared. I'm not confident. I'm not good at public speaking. I'm not good at social media. I'm too old. I'm too young. Whatever it is, right? It starts off with doubt, right? And then what happens is that as we start writing things down, it's a doubt with a big D, big capital D doubt, right? Then what we do is we start writing things down. I am beautiful. I am likable, right? I am successful. And what happens is over time, that doubt gets smaller. And as we write it down, the D gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? It doesn't go away over day. And depending on how big the doubt is, right, and how big the fear is, it's going to take that amount of time. It might be a couple days, it might be years, right? But it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Until one day what happens is it becomes a belief, right? But it doesn't become a big belief. It becomes a really small, tiny belief, a really small belief, right? And here's the trick. Most people stop here is we have to keep writing it down over and over and over again. And what happens is if we keep inputting good into us, that belief gets bigger and bigger and bigger until one day it's this really big belief. And you think to yourself, I can't believe I ever thought I was anything else. I used to think that I was unorganized, and now I'm the most organized person that I know. Happens over time. So this is a strategy that you guys can use to build these things. Just like going to the gym, it's hard work, it's repetition, 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 repetition. Remember, how do we build our mindset? Through repetition, over and over and over again. Then you have this big, huge belief. So Mahatma Gandhi, you guys might have heard of him. He has this really, really great quote. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. And what I'm just encouraging you guys to do is make the decision today to put good beliefs into yourself. I always say to everybody, the best decision I ever made, the best day of my, I remember the day, I remember the moment. The best thing I ever did was the decision to say kind words to myself. My whole world changed that day that I decided to say kind words to myself. If you guys get anything from this, I hope you make that decision today too. Say kind words to yourself. So here's what we covered. A couple things. I'm looking at time. I talk for too long, as I always do. Sales frequency magnet, how to attract business to you, how to build a blueprint, like do things backwards so that you can build your skills, so that you can build your confidence, and the belief amplifier. Okay. I'm just going to end with saying this before I say this. You will never, ever out earn your self-worth, and you will never out earn your self-image, right? So if you're stuck somewhere, you have to work on your self-worth. You have to work on yourself. We always work on ourselves, and you will never out earn your worthiness that you feel that you are. Okay. You will never out earn the way that you view yourself. So these are just strategies for you guys to build that. I made the decision to start building that years and years and years ago. My whole life changed. I just hope you make that decision as well. So as always, offer two things up here. Anybody who wants to have a conversation, I always say first 3 people in my email or my like a time at first 3 people. If you want to do like a 30-minute conversation, would love to have a conversation with you. If not, that's cool. I'll be sending out a recording after this, so you guys can rewatch this, share it with people, whatever you want. There's going to be a workbook with that as well, with all of the notes of everything that I talked about. You guys will get that as well. And that's all I got for you. So I'm looking at the time. I talk for too long, as I always talk for too long. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What was the biggest thing that you guys took out of this?
Positive thoughts.
Yeah, positive thoughts. You have to control them, right? It's not
Yes.
natural. It's not
Yes.
natural. It's created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
do the toothbrushing thing.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little kid. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and I love your tips and tricks for sure. I think one of the things that you mentioned, and it's worth reiterating here, is knowledge is power, and 100% agree with that. The more we know, the more confident we are at anything we
Yep.
do in our lives. Forget business. We're talking about personal. We're talking about it applies to anything. So I think that's very powerful to mention. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
You know, the problem that I see behind that all the time is that people just don't put it in there. Like what happens is we're entrepreneurs, we get pulled in a bunch of different ways, and we don't actually set aside the time to learn. Like I went to the listing. Remember I talked about the listing agreement? It's not that I couldn't have learned the listing agreement. I could have read it any time. It just wasn't a priority. I didn't put it in my schedule. I was getting pulled a million different ways, trying to do a million different things. And then finally I just realized, oh, I should know how to explain a listing agreement. And you're right, but yeah, it's good. A couple of raised hands there. Go ahead. Is it Duim? I'm not sure how to say your name.
It's Deborah. It's
Oh.
just it's Deborah we met, but it came as D we met. But thank you
Oh.
very much. This is
Yeah.
excellent. I really liked the build confidence backwards blueprint. I can't say all you said, but that was great. And I love the idea of reading the listing agreement. I would like to learn more about door knocking because I've never done it. It's like this big threat to me. I do a lot of mail and print ads, but
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I always say this, like I have people all the time that say, I went into a listing appointment and they didn't list with me. They listed with somebody else, or they didn't, I'm always like, okay, did you ask for the listing? No. Why didn't you ask for the listing? I don't know. I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel comfortable. And it always comes down to they didn't feel comfortable because they didn't ask the client enough questions and they actually feel bad about asking for the business. They feel bad about asking for it because they didn't connect with them.
Mm,
And that now they feel selfish. So they
mm,
feel like they're taking something. And then the other reason is they don't know the process. They don't know how to ask and they actually just don't know the next steps.
mhm,
So they're depending on that person to say, yeah, let's make the next steps. But if you know the next steps, you feel really good. You'll feel really good about going to the door. If you have a nailed down process, you can say in 5 steps, here's what I do. You can explain it to a 7-year-old or a 90-year-old. If you can explain that in 30 seconds and you have that down, you'll have no problem going to a door.
okay. Thank you.
You'll feel like when they answer the door, like you hope that they're not moving because it's a traumatic experience for everybody. But like if they're moving, like clearly they have to use you. That'll be the vibe.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool guys. Richa, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. As always, it was an amazing session. I love that backward builder blueprint. So I love how finalize, execute, and then initiate. I love that part. And I wanted to ask you, you said you door knocked for 2 years and you only got 2 listings. And then
Yeah.
in 6 months, you got 20 listings. How did you got 20 listings? I'm curious.
Honestly, exactly what I said. I literally sat there and I was like, I remember like someone like saying that they want to move and I didn't ask to go in. And I just realized like, I don't know how to get in somebody's door. I don't know the question. I remember I was just really honest with myself. I don't know how to go to the next step of saying, can I come in? And so then what I did was I had to learn all the language around that. Right? So it's always the same thing, right? Has anyone ever, geez, like you listen to them, whatever they say, well, we've been thinking about moving, but we really don't know what our house is worth. And, we have all these concerns. And then it's always the same question. So, geez, has anyone ever taken the time to price your house for you?
Mm,
No. Well, geez, would you be offended if I asked, can I come over like next week?
mhm,
No.
mhm,
So that's what was happening with me. I realized that. And then I realized through sitting there that, oh, geez, I don't have a plan when I go in there. And that was the difference. So then what I did was I made a listing presentation, right? My first listing presentation was I printed 14 pages of paper, or like I got them from a printer, sorry, and I scribbled down what I wanted on them, and I scanned them into a printer and I sent it to Fiverr, and I was like, turn this into a listing presentation for me. And I spent $15 and they put pictures on it in the way that I wanted it,
Wow.
sent it back, and then I was like, so that's how it started. And then I just, it gets better and better and better. And now I have it down. So that's basically just a setup. As soon as I walk through the door, they're either going to list with me or they're not moving. Like they're just not moving.
Well, I really, really appreciate this. I used your last session. I just wanted to compliment and say this in front of everyone instead of sending you an email. So I used your script from the last session on a listing presentation.
Yeah.
I knew how to ask for the business, which I didn't know earlier. Like I used
Yeah.
to be confused. So
Yeah.
she said she's not moving at the moment. Like she's
Uh,
confused. She's looking to rent it and move wherever she's moving. So I did introduce her to a property management company.
There
Then
you
the
go.
other day she sent me a message saying that she said if she'll list with me no matter what. And she sent me an email saying she's moving now. So which is awesome. Thank you.
So was that the setup at the end? Is there any reason why we shouldn't move forward? So is there anything you
Yes,
talk about today that we didn't talk about?
I did that. I did
Yeah,
that.
that's a good one.
mm,
And I
Good for you.
also didn't took too long. I just stick with my 1.5, 2 hours. Like I told her this is what we are going to cover and this
Yeah,
is how it works. And
frame it.
I just
Yeah,
thought I was more confident, I guess.
beautiful. And see, what's going to happen, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more confident you're going to be. And people feel it, right? Like same thing we're talking, they can feel it. They can feel the energy around it. They'll just say, oh, she's so confident. She knows what she's doing. She's going to take good care of us. That's all they want. That's all
Yes.
they want.
I think she loved when I asked too many questions, like, what do you
Of course.
think? Like just digging in
Yep.
to,
Yep.
so I think she really liked that part.
I love it. Shine the light on them. You shine the light on them. Make them the hero. make them the hero of the story.
Mm.
Beautiful. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Cool,
Thank
guys.
you.
Well, hey, listen, thanks for your time. I'm going to turn a lot of this into this. So I'm going to start pumping some stuff out there now that I have these 4 done. If you guys want to come back to any of them in the future, you're going to do, or if you want to invite people, if there's people that you know that should have been here that aren't here, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start redoing all of them. So if you guys want, you can revisit them. You know, they're always a little bit different. Or you can invite people. You know, I'll be going through, what is it, CRM next, and then AI, and then sales language, and then mindset. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then probably after I do it a few times, there's going to be a cost to it once I get it perfected. So come to them while you can, or don't share them if you want them for yourself. But if there's someone here that you know should be here for the next one, I'll be doing it again. Cool, guys.
Good job, Rob. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rob.
For your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
My man-
Rob.
my man
Thanks,
Keith.
Rob.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.